Let's talk about Lionsgate and the worst year ever for a production company in the history of Hollywood, which is saying something. Now, Joe, we've been talking about this for a while now, but finally this week, you know it's real because guess what happened? The freaking legacy media finally started covering this story. Here are some headlines from the past week, Joe. In Slash Film, Lionsgate is having its worst year ever at the box office. Here's why that's concerning. Collider. Lionsgate's box office flop streak continues, and something called Puck. Can Lionsgate recover?
I'm a Puck member.
Oh, you're
asshole.
a Puck member. What is Puck?
Oh, it's like a cool journalism website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Good for Puck.
Yeah.
Can Lionsgate recover from an epic run of mega flops? Joe,
It's the good article.
how long have I been beating this drum on Lionsgate? And people online were telling me I'm overreacting. They're going to be fine. Everything's cool. For months, I've been saying, this is bad, y'all.
Brett,
this is like bad.
Brett, the people online can jump in a lake because you've been right the entire time.
Thank you. And we might be getting into, I don't know, Lionsgate. We've been talking about, is Lionsgate going to sell? Is it going to get that far? And that we did get some actual news out of Lionsgate, which I'll tell you in a second. But they do still have this amazing back catalog, John Wick, Saw, Twilight, Hunger Games, etc. And it looks like next year they're going to be leaning on that back catalog hard in order to make up for this big loss this year. Because next year's scheduled releases from Lionsgate are all like sequels, reboots, that kind of stuff. So they'll probably right the ship, but they're going to have a big asshole to dig themselves out of. Joe, listen to some of these stats. And sorry, can I see that graphic one more time? I'm so sorry. You had it up forever, and then I went away from it. So Lionsgate has had 13 releases this calendar year. None of these 13 releases. That's a lot of movies for a studio to come out within a year.
Yeah, they have 13 cracks.
Not a single one of these movies, Joe, has gone over 50 million at the worldwide box office.
What?
That's not a single one of their movies. Their highest performing movie this year is Strangers Chapter 1. Not a single one of these movies has gone over 50 million at the worldwide box office. And based on what they're used to...
That's the worst out of 13 movies?
13 movies. And I went back just a year ago to 2023. Look at what they did last year in 2023. They had 2 movies over 300 million. John Wick 4 and the Hunger Games reboot. And in total... their total roster last year made well over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. They don't have a single movie over 50 this year. And they've had down years before, but usually when they have a down year, they're only releasing like 5 or 6 new movies, and there's not a bunch of like bigger budgeted movies. It's sort of like they just strategically agreed to have a sort of down year for new releases. You know, that's usually when they have their down years. But this year they went for it. And their only successful movies following a trend we've seen across the spectrum this year. Their highest earners were some of their lowest budgeted movies. I mean, Strangers Chapter 1 had one of their lowest budgets at $8.5 million and is their highest earner of the year. Now, I did the numbers on this, Joe. I ran the numbers. I crunched them hard. And I'm about to give you an apocalyptic picture of a film studio circa 2024. So the movies they released this year in total made $283,602,633 at the worldwide box office so far. Those movies in total had a production budget of $488 million, okay? Now, the prevailing wisdom is that you double the production budget to get your break-even point because the production budget doesn't include marketing, distribution, et cetera, et cetera. So the common knowledge or wisdom is just double the production budget, and that's the point you need to get to make profit. Now, that's not always true, and there's fluctuations depending on how much was spent on marketing, but that's roughly the case. So I did that, Joe. And based on that equation, the movies that Lionsgate has released this year so far have collectively lost $692 million.
That is really bad.
I'm sorry, that's bad. I don't mean to laugh. That's bad.
Look, I know how hard it is to make a hit, right?
Yes, no.
It's fucking hard.
Yes.
But we're not saying a hit. We're saying, can you make a movie over $50 million?
Yes.
Global.
Yes. And like Borderlands, Crow, Megalopolis, the Halle Berry
Never Let Go.
Just like
I know,
massive flop after flop after flop.
Miller's Girl
and
flop.
a couple Miller's
has
Girl
Jenny Ortega in it.
I mean, it didn't have a budget, but still, that could have been a surprise hit.
Everybody else made it work.
Yeah.
You know, like there are things they could have done. They really dropped the ball, and
they had that horrible Megalopolis like fake trailer thing.
How dare they?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Therefore, it's no surprise that they were the first studio to announce a partnership with this AI firm, Runway. So they announced a couple weeks ago Lionsgate, because they're falling off a cliff. They had to come out to save their, quarter or their report or whatever. And they announced that they're going to be the first studio to partner with an AI tech company called Runway that's going to create proprietary AI movie-making technology, where they're going to be able to consolidate a lot of elements of pre-production by cutting out things like storyboard editors and some of the other creative pre-production elements, and use AI to do this part of their workflow at Lionsgate Studios. It's going to reduce cost. It's going to save the studio. It's going to be all this. So, on one hand, that is incredibly disappointing that a studio, after the whole entire strike and everything we've been talking about, would so shamelessly and brazenly work with an AI company to lower costs. But on the other hand, this is just the first one. Every single studio is going to come out with their version of this in the next year. Just when is it financially or politically, like from a PR perspective, advantageous or least disadvantageous for them to announce this technology? So, it's just no surprise that Lionsgate was the first. That's how in dire straits they are.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the other side of that coin is that this week they did like a sort of soft round of layoffs, or they're sort of testing the waters on layoffs, because apparently they offered all of their employees this week. Lionsgate offered all of their employees a voluntary buyout, aka severance, as the studio restructures, and they're citing a disrupted business environment, aka all of our movies flopped big time.
Yeah. I know who disrupted it the most. Your execs.
This is like the layoffs equivalent of an airline trying to get people to change to a later flight. It's like that thing where it's like, all right, look, in 5 minutes we're gonna start kicking people off the flight. Right. Does anyone just want like $100 to kick themselves off now? Right. So Lionsgate is literally like, the layoffs are coming. Anybody want to fire themselves for a nice severance package? Just let us know. And so that sucks that that combined with like the investment in AI. But that's what happens in 2024 when a company is in jeopardy, particularly a company as big as Lionsgate. Is they're going to try to cut labor costs and increase automation is just what they're going to do.
They're the first because they're having the worst year. But Brett,
it's coming.
They're all going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm not happy to report.
And I do want to put a couple asterisks on that 692 million number. And all of this is conjecture. They're not transparent about how much money they're actually losing right now.
Brett, studio accounting, yes. Folks. It's famously a little secret.
And that's one of the big asterisks, is that there's always some, financial shenanigans that go on. Some of these movies are still making money at the box office, not a lot of money, but some of the movies are still bringing money in. And the big asterisk, though, is that Lionsgate does not personally bear the full responsibility of a lot of these losses. Like for Megalopolis, they were just brought in to distribute and do marketing, so they're not on the hook for the $132 million production budget. That's all Coppola, but he doesn't give a shit. So these aren't, that full $692 million loss, if that is the actual number for how much these movies have lost, is not fully on Lionsgate. But like, if even a fraction of that
gives
is on
you a
Lionsgate,
ballpark delta.
Yes. If they're even on the hook for like 300-400 million, that's a huge loss. That's
come
huge
on, man.
loss.
13 losses in a row.
And their name is associated with like failing movies over and over and over again. So it's just been a really bad year, and now it's starting to affect their workforce, which sucks. Because look, I don't want Lionsgate to have to become an AI-run company in order to survive, but I would love Lionsgate to figure out a way to remain viable. They've been they've made a lot of great movies over the years, and obviously, most importantly, would love if they didn't have to like fire their entire staff also as well. But we'll see. It is dark days over there at Lionsgate right now. We'll
sell
see what
stars,
happens.
which they've been trying to do for years. Nobody wants it. It's a mess. Lionsgate's a mess.